within the global standards. When I took over, the first thing that I did was to have a strategic vision for the internal audit team. So what does it mean? I went and met the various stakeholders, understood what their expectations were, depending on the requirements of various stakeholders, had the right mission and mission statement, and had a long-term goals and short-term goals. We did a expectation gap analysis. We took corrective actions on where the gaps were. We developed strategies to address the concerns and the requirements of the various stakeholders, and we got a very, very robust policy, not only for the internal audit, but also for the audit committee of the board. Now, there are a lot of things that I can talk about. This is a presentation I'm told that is going to be circulated, so I will take a few examples in each one of these and relate it to you. The next is focusing on the forest and not on the trees. You know, we are bogged down with looking at small things, trivial things. We miss out the big thing. You know, the elephant passes, we just hold the tail. So look at the big picture. We have a plan which is kind of deliberated at various levels, basis which larger picture is met, the larger strategic objectives of the organization are met. You have to have creative solutions to everything that you do. You just can't be giving recommendations and not having a strategy for how to implement those recommendations. It's important that you have those recommendations in place. One of the most important things, and to my mind, this has been the most significant aspect of success and creating a brand for internal audit, is going through the rigors of internal audit. You generally have gone through the process of operations. You know, you are far more averse to risk, or you know, you have that risk appetite embedded into you. You are controlled focus. So people from the internal audit move to business. Everyone, you know, anyone who completes about 3 years move to business. So there is a particular number of people who move to business, which helps build connections. It creates higher risk awareness and governance appreciation. Overall, it has an impact on the control environment. Coupled with that, I have run a guest auditor program, wherein people from business are invited to the audit team to undertake an audit for about 3 weeks. And that's when they appreciate what auditors are doing, why they are doing, and the effort that goes into audit. It's not about sitting in a corner and giving verdicts. Obviously, continuous monitoring and learning. We've built up a mechanism where every person within the team has to go through at least 150 hours of training over a period of 3 years, be it technical training, be it soft skills training, subject matter, continuous monitoring of the various transactions that happen so that there are no surprises. Off the record or private conversations with the audit committee members, giving them heads up on risk intelligence, integrating and first participating and then integrating, participating in the operational risk committees, the risk management committees, and the various committees that are control functions, and dovetailing all of that you've learned that in the audit process, and making sure that ultimately the organizational objectives are met. This has led to the audit committee, and in banks, some of the banks follow this. RBI has mandated that you should have a first level audit committee. So that's a subcommittee of the audit committee, which comprises of senior management, basically, who get into the details of every report and behave independently. They all, including the senior management, have become ambassadors of internal audit, looking at the work that we have given and the output that we are given. So that's a very, very plus for us. Doing more with less, of course, is a challenge that all of us face. Use of technology, ensuring that you focus only on high-risk areas, approach only to the high-impact areas, and, of course, leverage upon, within the banking situation, upon the work of concurrent auditors, risk management, and the internal control stream. You collaborate, you partner with business and other service providers within the control function. So, what does all of this mean to all of us? A, whether we like it or not, brand is being created. B, we need to recognize that brand is being created. And C, do things that help you create brand. It's just not an exercise. It is something that's a part and parcel of each one of us while we talk, while we breathe, while we deliver, and every activity that we do in the organization leads to brand. And this is a brand that either you will make it or you will break it. So do the right things, friends, and I'm sure it'll go a long way in building the brand that you would all like to carry it with you anywhere and everywhere that you go. It's all about the image that you want for your brand, finally.
Floor's open. Questions that you would like to ask specifically on Himanshu's presentation?
My question to Himanshu is that, it is seen that when internal auditors make any mistake, it is get glorified in the organization context. But whenever they do a good work, they don't get credit for that. So do you suggest that we should advertise our own achievements, our own I will say successes to the organization?
Let me answer that in two parts. First is, from a banking perspective, and that may not be true in every other context, the performance of the internal audit team and the head of audit is a formal process which is undertaken at the audit committee of the board each year, and it is documented as part of the minutes. So that's the first thing, and that then gets communicated to senior management, and obviously, as I mentioned, the first year audit committee, which is a subcommittee of the audit committee, which has the senior management representation, has inputs to give, so you hear both sides of the coin. Yes, whenever there is an appraisal that takes place, you hear the pluses and the minuses, but yes, that's a formal process and there is a feedback mechanism. That's the first thing. Two, you have a feedback process at the end of each audit, which works really well. And three, as I mentioned, we have a guest auditor program. So whenever these auditors come in, they really look into how the audit functions. And hence there is an appreciation of what audit does. And fourth, and the last thing is, your work will speak for yourself. We don't need to brag ourselves.
I think like to add something, to kind permission. Yeah. So I think, unfortunately, we are in a very romantic profession. I don't know if that's the right word. It's romantic. It's an occupational hazard that you run. Way back when I was in group audit, Credit Lyonnais, and went to Paris, and the group head of audit, who actually advises the board, said that all of you guys, your clients, internal clients would tell you, you're welcome, but you're not actually welcome. So remember this first, we're not a welcome profession. We are in a profession of criticizing processes, functions, and commenting on risks. And therefore, as Himanshu rightly put it up, we need to be highly process-driven, disciplined, and therefore we need to be extremely careful. And therefore, everybody is waiting for you to make an error or a mistake. And the moment they would see that, they will pounce on you. And in a report, there would be something very, very trivial. That's very, very maybe questionable, or slightly error-prone, or debatable point. And that will get blown up, and the meaty points would be dropped. But they say, no, you said this is not right. And they just jump on that. And this is because of the profession or the occupational hazard that you run. And therefore, it's more than very, very required that you need to be extremely process-driven, discipline, demonstrable discipline, demonstrable process, and naturally demonstrably very, very clear, articulating your points. And report writing is something you need to be extremely careful. I remember when I was in Merrill Lynch, a report used to be, every comma and every full stop used to be discussed debated across conference calls between US, India, Hong Kong, and various parts.
Thank you, Sundar. So that's two different views. Arvind, would you like to have a go?
Different view. I think Harish asked a very relevant question. Should we tout our engagements, our achievements? And there will always be achievements which you can share. And that create the visibility, because you can't distance yourself from the fact that there are a lot of people who work with you. And they also have aspirations, and they also want to share their achievements in the same way as the other parts of the organization share their achievements. So those are the ones to pick on and share and make it visible. That's all part of creating your brand.
I have a slightly different view, Harish. I think in my mind, it's not just our profession, but if you actually look at it, think of any other profession. Think of a doctor, think of a lawyer, think of an architect. Something goes wrong, fingers will always point over there. I don't think it's just about the internal profession, but I think we have, over a period of time or by a flux of time, we've probably not done enough to showcase our talents, our achievements, our skill sets. We've not gone back to the board and said, listen, here's the value scorecard, here are the 5 things that we actually did during the year. And these were either superb, or I think we did not do so well. I think the time is really important for us to actually stand up and be counted, because otherwise we will be in this rut for the rest of our lives. That's my, yeah?
So we are talking about creating our own brand or retaining or to improve the image of a brand. Now, wherever, at least my personal experience goes, I have seen whenever I have been visiting, I was visiting some place for auditing, the first thing they would ask, when you are leaving. When are you leaving? I mean, so by creation of a brand, are you referring to the brand should be acceptable to the auditee or to the management? Let's be very clear on this, because I have never seen even the general public is happy saying police has come, like the same, you know. I have never seen any auditee welcomed us, the auditor has come, so we are very happy. No, it didn't happen actually. So let us be very clear in our understanding where we exactly need to create our brand, to the management or to the auditee. I want to be a little bit clarified on that. Please help me.
As I was pointing out earlier, I mean, as a profession, you provide assurance to your stakeholders. And I think this very clearly brought out earlier. And who are your real stakeholders? It could be the board, it could be the shareholders. I think when you rate them, I think first stakeholders, your owners, the shareholders. And then comes the board, who represent the stakeholders. And then in that priority it would come. So executive management is also a priority, but I don't know, probably the better priority is stakeholders. Therefore, so his question is, whom do you take the kudos from? Isn't it? Is that, if I put the question right? Yeah, and who should be loved? And who should be the people who appreciate? Is that the auditee or the executive management, or, I mean, when you alluded to that, am I answering your question correctly?
Actually, you are referring to the same question. Actually, my question is the same, exactly the same. To whom we need the appreciation? I mean, from whom we need the appreciation? Of course, from the stakeholders.
Absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt you, but the moment we do that, we are going far off from the auditee. So,
not necessarily. Not necessarily. See, executive management at the end of the day is supposed to execute the vision strategy of the owners or the board. So, I wouldn't say that if you are siding the owners of the board, you're going to go against the executive management's vision or mission or strategy. There is a convergence there. There is a clear path laid out and agreed by both the people, if it's cleverly run organization or rightly run organization.
Aibhushan, just on the lighter side, perhaps it was just meant to, figure out when you're leaving so they can book the dinner table before your farewell dinner, right? But having said that, there is an element one expects out of you as an auditor or anybody as an auditor, and which is part of your brand and the way you carry yourself, you conduct yourself with healthy amount of skepticism and fairness in your process. And that is part of your brand. And that is how you balance your professionalism between the management and the auditee.
Just a quick thought on that. Let me ask you answer your question by asking you a question. I don't know whether you represent industry or a professional services firm, but my question will be dependent on the answer that you give.
He's part of Arvind's
Yeah,
team.
he's part of Arvind's team. So let me ask you a question. In case of crisis, who does management first remember to help them?
Definitely it's internal audit.
That's your brand. Why are you the first point of call? Brand is not always by somebody patting your back, somebody talking good about you always. It's who does management remember first when they are in a crisis situation? Who can they depend on? Who can they trust? Who can they rely upon in the need of crisis? And I think a lot of us who are part of industry will confirm that when in need, internal auditors are the first point of call, and that is what I call by creating a brand for internal audit.
Excellent, Himanshu. Thank you.
Excellent. I got
Any-
my answer, but once the crisis is over, they forget
Sir,
us. Anyway, that's a
so
lighter
let's
side.
take that question offline. Maybe you want to hand over to somebody else? Name, organization, please.
Yeah, my name is Saurav. I'm from Tata Chemicals. I just want to ask one question, sir. The question is, sometimes in some of the organization we practice pre-audit concept, and some of the organization we have post-audit. In some organization, the auditors, they're made part of a decision making in the sense that, we become a member of the scrap committee or the purchase tender committee. So is it, which concept is right? The pre-audit concept or the post-audit, or we should be a part of the operating committees?
Sure, please. Go ahead.
Let me at least say it because we have both pre and post audit within my function. The critical part is that the pre-audit shouldn't become part of the approval process itself in a manner by the same people who are raising the intents or the purchase orders or whatever it is that is being pre-audited. There is no right answer to this. I think there is a value in having the pre-audit because it ensures a proper process is followed. But if it exists both pre-audit and post-audit within the same function, it allows you to actually carry the process to its rightful conclusion, which is if you're unhappy with something which is at the pre-audit stage, it allows you to investigate right down to the point of the consummation of that transaction. So it can be a very powerful tool.
So, in the interest of time, although Bhaskar says that we are here till night, may I request Arvind to take the stage, enlighten us with his thoughts, and then we'll hand over to Sundar.
Okay.
See, I love the mic. I'm not letting go of it very easily.
So I'm just going to take you through what SR has done in terms of building its brand. Now, why do we need a brand? Because a brand is something that speaks about us when we're not in the room. Right? So these are some of the brands I associate with. I've worked with some of them. I possess some of them. And just let's see what some of them say. Now, I thought that if Himanshu can get a Ferrari to the stage, why can't I get my motorbike? If I talk about one brand here, Arthur Andersen, I just met a former colleague from there. Now, I don't know how many of you, is there anybody from Arthur Andersen who worked there before 2000? So there's one. But that one person, or maybe someone of you who were associated with that brand would remember that this orange logo, which is a dot, actually used to be a closed door. And not only was that closed door, intriguing, everybody used to ask, what does that logo signify? every office of Arthur Andersen had the same shaped door, no matter where in the world. And that was supposed to signify conservatism of that profession. And in 2000, when there was a split of Andersen and Andersen Consulting, there was a pursuit to change the brand, and this logo came on. And we all know what happened thereafter, because probably the brand values changed. So I'm going to take you through, before branding, what was the situation with SR. We had a function. That function has been created in a hurry, and like someone said, just do it. So not much forethought had gone into it, but it was an effective way to start something. The problem with it was exactly what was laid out. It was considered as a, the perception was it was a policing function, very cynical, so on and so forth. I don't think we copied it from the same place, but that's exactly what it was. There was no service motive associated with the brand. And the most important part was that there was a very, very low engagement score from the employees who worked in the function. So it was so low that it only signified disengagement. So people either didn't respond, or they responded to such a low score that it was almost as if people didn't want to be there. So we had a challenge. So what we needed to do was to align ourselves, all our stakeholder-related processes and alignments. So we needed to get more visibility with them. Now, you may see that there is this movie coming on, it's being released on the theaters on 23rd November, The Life of Pi. And it's a I would recommend anybody see that movie. It's a very crazy concept. It's about a guy and a Royal Bengal tiger on a boat in the sea. And if you have nothing to eat, what do you think the tiger is going to eat? Or vice versa. And how does one create a dependence upon each other that you still survive? And so would you cut off the hand that feeds you? So it is all about alignment with your stakeholders. Our review process was not stringent enough. We weren't very careful about what was going on in the report because we didn't care. So largely, we are seen as a fault-finding function. Rigid audit plans, which are not going to change based on the management, because we are going to do what we want to do. We have huge skill gaps, and I already told you about the lowest employee engagement score. So we went down to actually looking at the way we do things. So we went down to what is the organization's vision? Do we even align with it? Do we take responsibility for anything? And when we said that we want to be your trusted advisors who help make your business better and keep you out of trouble, that inculcates a sense of responsibility in us. In order to keep you out of trouble, I must be independent and therefore be able to voice my thoughts with you free of any fear. So we had to look at a number of things, starting from our vision and how we wanted to brand our function, right from the very basics. So we went right down to getting our audit charter, our mission, vision, core values, because until you have something around which you pull your team, how do you create a brand? If you have a function which has such a low engagement score and who is not really perceived as great, how do you get them into the leadership programs? Our organization structure completely misaligned with the rest of the business. And we didn't have the right skills. So I told you there were skill gaps, so we had to build all of this according to the business of the organization and actually put it to bed. Now, you look at it, we have a proper process, quality control, a thought leadership. We actually run a thought leadership program, so anybody who wants to volunteer, please do. Every month, we host a series, and about 150 senior executives from the rest of the company attend. We have flexibility. We all keep aside X number of hours which are shared with the auditees and the management, that these are available for you. There is a huge amount of customer orientation. everybody, including the lowest unit of the audit team, is actually invited to all meetings where management and senior management is present. There is complete communication in terms of how the rest of the team perceives what we do. And training, of course, Himanshu alluded, we have 40 hours of mandatory training per person. So what we've done is we've actually aligned our objectives right with the business objectives. So they find value in it. Representation at all key compliance meetings, everywhere. Someone asked, should we tout our achievements? Yes, we should. If there are achievements, there are achievements for the organization. We are no different from the rest of the organization. We've received awards, and pretty significant ones in the past year. We've won the global prize, the best prize from ACL last year. The prize distribution is in April this year for continuous monitoring and evaluation. And we are an 80,000 people organization with 30 billion in revenue. So without this, we are not productive. We've completely automated our documentation processes. Now we have positioned ourselves for greater influence. Now the requests are pouring in by the scores. We are completely invited to each and every meeting, from budgetary meetings to cost control meetings to review meetings. We become a core competency rather than a burden now. Everybody wants it. The value to our stakeholders has increased. We continue to be evaluated highly because, unlike other functions, we have a review of our function every month. Gone is internal audit. We created a brand called GACC, and that's what's remembered. We're not even called internal audit anymore. And when I told you about a disengagement score there, this presentation, when I was asked to make it, I gave it to the youngest member of my team, the newest member of my team, and I said, make me a presentation. This is what I want to talk about. And I kid you not, this is exactly what was presented. I have not changed the content. So now look at the engagement. So it's so powerful once you have that brand. Everybody talks exactly the same language. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I'm open to any questions anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Arvind.
Hi, this is Rajesh Shah from HSBC. Actually, it's not like a question, but more like a thought. Traditionally, we have always been talking about, internal audit being independent function, which is required. But do we think that we are still carrying that thing too seriously and as a first priority, which is not helping us to really connect with our stakeholders, so that they can actually consider us as a trusted partners? Are we trying to be always remaining away from them? Should we connect more with the stakeholders as any other management function? So say, for example, if tomorrow there is a product launch, the way they go to, say, legal or compliance for advice, they come proactively to internal audit for a risk-specific advice.
In a banking situation, we have a new product approval process where internal audit has to give a sign-off on the new product, which has the various features, the operating steps, the accounting steps, the risk management steps, and look at it from a fraud perspective and to see there are adequate controls. So yes, audit is always involved at every stage of evolution of a product and rollout. I can talk about the banking and the financial services side.
Similarly, you could share the risk assessment of function products from the NPR process that Himanshu spoke about. Also, if you share your on-site, off-site risk assessments frequently and get to an agreement, you then add value. The moment you add value to processes in terms of nipping the process gaps in the bud, you would be seen as more as a value additional person, and that would really, really go a far way. So you would get respect. They would come to you for your trusted advice. And more so in the boardrooms and in the off the boardrooms, when we meet up with the audit committee members and the board members, they look at your body language, face, and they say, Sundar, sab theek hai na? Haan. Everything is okay. They look at you for assurance. So that's the brand you carry. Assurance, value addition, trusted advisor, respect in terms of a specialist. So, these are the things that carry you. And therefore, they would look up to you for advice, look up to you more proactively than before.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm just connecting the dots in terms of what Neville mentioned about tools and techniques and also using information system effectively so as to provide the assurance that as part of your brand. And also a concept called integrated auditing. I mean, today, more and more internal auditor is seen as an integrated auditor. Auditor would be a business specialist, an auditor would be risk aware, an auditor would be a trusted advisor, an auditor who would use the systems effectively, tools and techniques effectively. And that's the, and more importantly, lastly, is the bashing the silos. That's how the audit function is looked at, especially when I very much liked Arvind's presentation when he said before branding and post branding. You see how internal audit emerged now as an assurance profession within the organization. Similarly, the same thing, that's what we've done in terms of bashing silos between risk, compliance, and audit. Actually, all the three reports onto me in my own company, and that too at the formation stages. And the first audit committee meeting was very, very tough. Because straight away a pointed question came, how can you have all the three under you? Then, I clarified that, look, our internal audit actually is co-sourced to an external audit firm. What we try to do is we try to minimize the duplicity between compliance review, risk review, and audit. And in every audit committee henceforth, the audit team, the external audit consultant would come and make presentation. My own audit head would be also coordinating the audit strategy, risk assessments, would also be part of the audit committee, and I would also be part of the audit committee, and that was accepted. And they would have a dotted line and direct line to the board, and if you want to directly interact with them, you're free to. So every month, they are called separately, and if required, I'm put on a con call to clarify facts. So, that's how we managed to bash silos, at the same time ensure the audit profession is independent. So, this is how the whole group Reliance Capital Group is managed. And the other manner, apart from the excellent way which Arvind articulated the brand building, is also we've gone for rating by independent rating agency. Apart from the ISO 9000 standard, the quality guys come and audit us. They give us a tough time. And just as we audit others, the quality guys audit us and ensure we follow processes. And the rating company comes every year and audits the risk management function. So with the only life insurance company to be rated for risk management practices, enterprise-wide risk management practices. And we got a AAA rating, in fact, a draft yesterday. So, that's very, very tough to maintain, especially in these hard times, because even the business risks are considered as part of the rating process. So these are the building blocks. We've done it in the COSO layer, governance, identification, measurement. So as to have an effective governance, risk, compliance, cohesive framework. At the same time, ensuring independence of each function. So we mapped process to process, found out what could go wrong in each of the process, done relatively given self-assessments framework to the line functions to themselves do self-assessment, so that it's so impossible to manage everything in 1,200 and odd branches across the country and so many 25 or 28 odd functions across the corporate office. So what we depend on is also self-audit, self-compliance, self-risk management. And also, as you see, the group audit is a very important part of the risk capital framework. They come and review work. The group compliance come and review the compliance work. The group risk comes and does a review. I just finished a group compliance review and then I'm coming here. So, that's the kind of checks and balances you built in to ensure that, and people really like it when, even I get reviewed, I get assessed by somebody else. They said, oh, okay, tomorrow we audit, good, good, good. You get a taste of what we go through. So, that's that adds really, really credibility to quality assurance that you have in your processes. So that's thought I'll highlight. Also, when you do a root cause analysis of the various scams that have occurred recently, especially risk compliance audit, we found that there have been silo bashing and there have been effective collaboration between these functions. You would have ensured that we don't have those monsters which we saw in those organizations, and that's what I learned when I went through the journey last 7-8 years, and this is really working wonderfully. So use of tools was articulated by Neville, and we can use a number of tools. One, of course, to self-RSA or self-assessments. Then you can use dashboards. You can use business objects for this to carve out data from the core systems and then use OLAP or online application processing of data. The way you want to slice dive data, you do that and pull out dashboards. So like every car gives a dashboard, we give a dashboard every month on various business parameters. And then whenever an incident occurs, you do a RCA or root cause analysis and also ensure every function does a compliance self-check on the tool, and then we're able to see the tool. 1,200 branches, mind you, is so difficult to manage. So unless people cooperate, they put their results in the tool and display that to you, it's not going to be easy. And of course, we use SAS analytics for various parameters, and especially business ones, to find out the various way the business risks are moving up and down. We spoke about pre-audit, and that's so much important as part of the function because risk assessments are very, very key. And you need to validate your risk assessments just as you need to validate your draft audit report. And therefore, we use tools for that. We also try to integrate databases. So although my compliance team, audit team, and risk team is separate, they work on a common software, and we try to integrate risks from various sources. Especially if some audit guy finds out a compliance issue somewhere, immediately the compliance guy would go there and take a deep dive and ensure things are in place. So works speed, agility, it improves. And of course, you need analytics and integrators for that. Also, we have business continuity planning and risk analysis and reviews, as I mentioned, across each vertical. So then, of course, the audit module, which helps us to do risk assessments, auto audit, which is right from engagement to the report writing. Again, the question that was asked is, can we make mistakes, and why do people pounce on us? And which is why report writing also, there are lots of tools for report writing. How do you, in fact, when I was in Merrill Lynch, thought I would share that, we actually used a software to find out how do we make better reports. So there was wasted words in how we write an issue. At age of 42, I had to go to Hong Kong in business class and learn report writing after spending 20 years in group audits of various multinationals. But that was compulsory. And we went through a grueling 4-day exercise. And they've selected an Oxford professor for that. How do you write effective business language and business reports? But that's so important. They attach so much importance to each and every line in the audit report. And that really, really carries you far because nobody is going to pounce on any line of the report because it's reviewed so carefully, thoroughly. And that's, of course, my colleagues mentioned about continuous monitoring, which is so important, especially if you know that concurrent audit animal is a very, very, something that Himanshu must be spending time with, very, very burdensome aspect, goes back to Arshad Mehta's scam. But something that effectively could replace concurrent audit is continuous monitoring, wherein you use tools effectively to things like business objects to look at key risks, key areas of audit every month or every quarter, depending on the nature of the risk. If it's an high risk, probably every month. And if it's medium or low risk, you do it quarterly or half-yearly. And look at how do you look at those key items using tools, using analytics, so that you get independent assurance from tools as well as the qualitative risk assessment that you need to do. And then, of course, we have monthly control committees, which is actually a packed executive audit committee module again, executive risk committee, executive compliance committee, and we sort of have an executive security committee also, which of course runs almost half a day or almost a day. But more and more you engage the independent directors in the board or the audit committee of the board into these processes, they really get an assurance from you, saying that, okay, things are fine, and we get that sort of comfort, which is so important these days. And then, of course, you have the tools. We use also ACL, CATS, and we have another tool called ClickView, wherein we query data and reports. So these are very important tools and techniques. More and more objective you seem to be, more and more assurance that the stakeholders would draw, more and more respect that you get from your clients. And this is what is so important. And of course, risk assessments, which you must share, and also make your own auditees do risk assessments, compare notes. Sometimes you would find your auditees are more conservative than you are. And they will say, okay, no, this is red, Sundar. I think you must come and do an audit out here. And that's the change I've seen from what the pre-branding, which Arvind spoke about, to the post-branding and the post. And that transformation has not come just by branding, but more from the way we have carried ourselves in those years and those days. And so much so that you're now required and part of the organization from a policeman or a gunda, which somebody else, so one of my previous speakers spoke about. And of course, if you have several branches across the country like I have, you need to do risk rating. We use another software for this, red, amber, green, color, scores. These are very, very important. And I also make the line functions in the operations, which are independent of the people who carry out the processes, do cross audits, which is similar to somewhat guest audit, but this is more as a regular process than a guest audit role. And then we ensure that we get at least two audits in a year of branches, apart from the surprise audits that I gave it to independent consultants. So again, automation of audit process is key, planning, strategy, risk assessments, and automating the various projects, etc. So that we've finished I hope I've connected the dots.
Thank you, Sundar.
I'll leave it to the moderator.
Thank you. So a quick question from my side to the panel. We've heard a whole host of things that you are doing for your stakeholders, the various stakeholders. So what is your promise to the stakeholders? Do you actually promise them assurance? Do you promise them zero frauds? Do you promise them no surprises? Do you promise them value addition? And if so, how is it clearly defined? What is the value? What is the promise to the stakeholders? And I think it kind of resonates with, if I'm not mistaken, Rajesh asked that question, right, from HSBC, saying, what exactly am I promising my stakeholder?
One has to realize that stakeholders are not one, right? When you're present in a room, there are several stakeholders, okay? In our case, we have our owner promoters. They are the majority shareholders in almost all our companies. We have independent directors because our company is listed. We've got line management. We have external auditors. And each of their expectations is different. And each of them wants us to give them assurance on different things. So what we have tried to divide our work is into 4 areas. The first is with regard to internal controls, because that's what that's the foundation with which everything else runs. The second bit is with regard to integrity of data. So how good is the data with which decisions are made? The third bit is with regard to safeguard of the assets. So this is all about theft, about misappropriation, about taking care of what the company owns. And the fourth is on operational effectiveness. So do we capture efficiencies? Can we monitor them in a way that we get the maximum synergies, maximum benefits, cost savings, whatever it be, efficiencies out of the organization? And within all of this is what we try and capture all stakeholders.
Okay, so just stay with me on this question. So therefore, is there any concept of consulting or value addition